Hola, hola mis queridos amigos viajeros incansables. Hoy quiero darles la más cálida bienvenida para llevarlos a Winter Park en el corazón de Florida. Un lugar donde la emoción se entrelaza con la serenidad en un majestuoso paseo en bote. Tendremos una travesía inolvidable a través de los tesoros ocultos de Orlando. Así que pónganse cómodos y mantengan los ojos bien abiertos. Nunca se sabe qué vida salvaje puedes ver en el camino, desde majestuosas aves que descienden en picada para pescar hasta los relajados cocodrilos tomando el sol. Sí, amigos, es factible. Cada momento es una oportunidad para conectarse con la madre naturaleza en su forma más pura. Pero esperen, hay más. Mientras navegamos, prepárense para quedar asombrados por las bellas y opulentas casas privadas con sus hermosos jardines que decoran estos canales. Es un pequeño vistazo al lujo que es sinónimo de la vida en Winter Park. La mejor parte de este paseo es que es fácil, económico y muy emocionante, con recorridos que salen diariamente desde su muelle en el principal distrito comercial de Winter Park. No hay excusas para perderse esta aventura. Sube a bordo de uno de estos espaciosos botes, acondicionado para 18 pasajeros, y disfrutemos juntos de un viaje inolvidable. Los tickets tienen un costo de solo $20 por adulto y 10 para los más pequeños, y los niños menores de 2 años viajan gratis. Abren a las 10 a.m. hasta las 4 p.m. todos los días, excepto en Navidad. Por ahora, los dejaré con el sonido natural para que puedan mantenerse atentos a las indicaciones de nuestro amable guía. Disfruta de este recorrido panorámico. Nos vemos en el agua.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Winter Park Scenic Boat Tour. My name is Howard, and today we're going to be going into 3 lakes and 2 canals. And we're going to start right here at this lake. This is called Lake Osceola. This lake was named after the great war chief, Osceola, the Seminole Indian tribe. Now, it's a little bit hot this morning, so I'm going to flip up on the air conditioner. Y'all hang on to your hats. Y'all ready to go on tour? Let's go. Welcome back. Has it been a while? Did y'all go down the waterfall last time you were here? Well, they've since introduced a nice waterfall. Y'all don't mind getting a little wet, do you? I'm kidding. Now, folks, we're lucky in this town to have a couple of great museums. This museum over here on the right, that's the Alvin Palasic Museum. And Alvin was a Czechoslovakian-born sculptor. And he and his wife came into this house to retire. When Alvin died, she converted the home and the estate into a museum on his behalf. Now, this house, on the same grounds as the museum, is our James Capen house. Now, folks, that's the oldest house in Winter Park. That was built in 1885. But what makes that house so unique is that he built that house on the other side of this lake. In order to get it where it is today, they had to float it. So we get to that side of the lake, and I'm going to explain just how they did. So y'all remember James Capen, 1885. I'll give you guys a pop quiz. Capen, like Capen. Now we're going to get into our first canal. This is the Fern Canal. So this was hand dug in the 1870s. They dug this canal primarily as a snapping turtle. They dug this canal for lumber. Before citrus really took off here in Central Florida, we were known for our cattle and our lumber export. And that's why they dug this canal. Now this canal is very shallow. We get all of our water through rain. These aren't spring-fed lakes. So right now we've only got about 3 feet of water in these canals. Very shallow. And these are 2-way canals. Coming to our first bridge. This is Osceola Avenue Bridge. In the middle of the bridge, we call it Osceola Bench. It's usually quite low in the summer when we get a lot of rain, but right now we don't have to worry about that. part of Rollins College, that's the center campus. And it was built in 1932 by Ralph Cram. Mr. Cram also did a chapel at West Point, the military academy up in New York. Canal coming into view on our left. That little canal leads to Lake Mizell. Lake Mizell is the smallest of all of our lakes. It's only about 50 acres. That's also the only lake you can see from the road. So if you're driving around Winter Park and you're looking for the chain of lakes, all of these are hidden. You can only see this little tiny Lake Mizell. And this peninsula is called Windsong, and it has 4 estates on it. This estate in 1927 was the Winter Park Gentlemen's Club. You can imagine that as a gentleman's club in the 20s. Rollins briefly took it over and made it their music department, and now it's just a privately owned estate. So if you're lucky enough to have one of these 4 estates, you can have your sunrise and coffee overlooking Lake Mizell, your sunset and cocktails overlooking Lake Virginia. Not bad. Undeveloped land in Winter Park, and it will never be developed thanks to a genetic genius. Genetic genius was the granddaughter of Postman Morse, one of our founding fathers here in Winter Park. That's a peacock. And she married a man named Hugh McKean. And Hugh and Miss Genius took a little trip to India. And when they returned, they brought back a male and a female peacock that you just heard. And let them... Point out this oak tree on the left side of the canal with all that moss. That oak tree is over 300 years old. It had to go through 300 hurricane seasons to hit a trunk on that tree. Yeah, it's a beautiful. It's called a mighty oak. Back into Lake Osceola. As we get back into the lake, I'm going to point out these little stumps. Those are called knees. Those are cypress knees. And that's the root system to the cypress tree. That's how it obtains all of its oxygen, through those little knees. Boathouse was built in the 1890s, and it was built by a Mr. Brewer, who was a carriage builder up in Cortland, New York. And Mr. Brewer wanted to make Winter Park his home. However, his wife had a beautiful estate up in Portland, and she didn't want to leave it. Come down here and live on this lake with all the mosquitoes and alligators. She wasn't going to leave her home for that. So Mr. Brewer contacted his wife and said, I need you to come down to Winter Park. I have a little surprise for you. So she came down to Winter Park, and Mr. Brewer showed his wife this. He built his wife an exact replica of her house in New York. That's her exact same house. 7 bathrooms, 8 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, and a ballroom. Miss Brewer came to Winter Park, she saw that house, and became a Winter Park resident. And that's a smart Mr. Brewer. She was credited with happy wife, happy life. I could say Mr. Brewer underneath that. Purple martins migrate here every year, and we love them because their main diet is mosquitoes. The only thing with the purple martin is they migrate back in August, right when we need it the most. And a little fact about the purple martin is they never touch the ground. Now, we stayed here on the point. This was built by a man named James Gamble Rogers. And James Gamble Rogers was one of our most prolific architects we had here in Winter Park in the 30s and 40s, briefly into the 50s. This was one of his last pieces. He built this for Mr. and Mrs. Rich, which they were. And Mrs. Rich was very picky. She wanted her main room to all to overlook Lake Osceola. Gamble could do that. He's an architect. She also insisted on a beach, a clean white beach. He was having a heck of a time trying to think of how to do that because our sand under here is a gray grit. It's not a deep sand. So Mrs. Rich told Gamble Rogers, you build a house, I'll take care of my beach. And she did. She went to the world's most famous beach and got their sand and staked on a beach in her backyard. Clever woman. The reason why is because their kind of beach sand is very granular. And all the water that comes through, percolates through it, doesn't push it out because it's so granular. It just percolates through so it doesn't wash away. The most often question I get is what's your alligator situation? That's called Alligator Cove. And the reason why that's named Alligator Cove is not long ago we had a serious problem with alligators in these lakes. They were everywhere. They were getting into yards. They were sneaking into people's garages. They stopped becoming a nuisance and they started becoming seriously dangerous. So Florida Fish and Wildlife came out to that little cove and they extracted 180 of them. Scooped them up, took them out, and they dropped them off into poor little Lake Jessup. Now, Lake Jessup's a lake between Sanford and Oviedo, and that one lake has more alligators than any other lake in Florida, including the Everglades. If you've ever flown into Sanford Airport, you fly right over Lake Jessup, look out the window next time. All you see in Jessup are rocks. No rocks in Jessup, it's all gator. And because of that extraction, we have very few alligators down these lakes. I'm from here, and I'm used to seeing them in June. June is their mating season, and they pop up in June, and they're looking for love everywhere. I don't know if that young man knows it or not, but he's standing underneath a very powerful bird's nest. That is an osprey's nest up there, and in that nest are 4 baby chicks that hatched last week. And if he's not careful, Daddy Osprey's going to come down and do a number on him. But those baby birds will stay in that nest with the mother until they fly away, but one will come back and make it her nest. That is a multi-generational nest. And those ornaments were not done by the osprey. We had a skipper named Charlie, and he would come out and secretly decorate that tree. And when we lost Charlie 8 years ago, we've kept up that tradition. So we nicknamed that our Charlie Brown Christmas tree. That's another James Gamble Rogers. He built that in 1931 at the very height of the Depression. And he built it for Mr. Packard of the Packard Automobile Group. Mr. Packard sold that estate when they merged with Studebaker. The next door neighbor, that very contemporary house, that's Horace Grant's old house of the Orlando Magic. And Horace was a good friend of the boats. He would see us out here, and he would jump on a jet ski and come out and sign autographs and talk to everybody in the boat. Nicest guy. They traded him to the Los Angeles Lakers, and the people that bought his house had to go in it and gut it, take everything out. Because he was so tall that they had to lower all the cabinetry, all the sinks. He had a full-blown basketball court in his house, which they converted into a ballroom. Everybody needs a ballroom in their house. He's the nicest guy. We miss him out here. He's a lot of fun. Not here. His was in Windermere or Islesworth, I believe. We used to have a lot of celebrities that lived on these lakes until Windermere and Islesworth started development. And when they started to develop, a lot of them migrated out to those places because it's a lot newer homes and a lot easier to build out there than Winter Park. Winter Park permitting process is grueling, and I don't think it is so tough out there in Windermere and Islesworth. Back into the Venetian Canal. college has had some really famous people that have graduated from there. Buddy Ebsen graduated from Rollins. He did all of the Beverly Hills being built by a retired couple. 2 people are building a 41,000 square foot home. I don't think they like each other much. Now we're going to get into the Venetian Canal. This is a beautiful canal. And this, again, was hand dug in the 1870s, but the difference between this and the Fern, this was just to connect Lake Maitland with Lake Osceola. So they just followed an old creek bed, dug it up, and made it into a canal, which really makes it a challenge to navigate. But it's a beautiful canal, about 1/3 of a mile long, our longest. And if y'all look real carefully, you'll see some bananas growing right there in that banana tree. Little mini bananas. Yeah, that one is being renovated on the left. Right, that was a double lot. They tore down 2 homes and put that huge, but that's a better word. And we're going to scoot under Palmer Avenue. college crew teams. Their facilities are right here on the right side of the boat. Hey guys. And this is Craft Azalea Gardens. It's a beautiful little park right in the middle of Winter Park. And all of these cypress trees you see surrounding Craft Azalea Gardens are between 600 and 800 years old. These are some of the oldest trees we've got in Central Florida. And all that Spanish moss that you see hanging from it isn't Spanish, and it's not even a moss. That's an air plant. Doesn't hurt the tree at all. It's not a parasite. And in the 1800s, that's what they used to stuff mattresses with. So when you hear that old saying, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, comes from that. And the Ford company utilized that same material in their Model A's, and they ran an ad in Life magazine that said, "Are you itching to buy a Ford?" Yeah. That was the very first automotive recall. The Winter Park Scenic Coast, where we've been doing this since 1938. We are the oldest and the longest running tourist attraction in Florida. And we're open every day. We don't close. The only day we do not close is Christmas Day. Which means I don't have a day off for 9 months. But there's always hurricane season to look forward to. And lightning. Now y'all stay seated so I come back and open that gate, okay? I don't want anybody else going swimming again today. Well, thanks for coming. Well, it's kind of like moving in next to an airport. We've been doing this before a lot of these homes were even here, since 1938. So it's pretty much, we were here before anybody. Literally. But yeah, we get along really well with most of the neighbors. There's a couple that get itchy with us because we go through their personal backyard canal every day.
Thank you very much. Thanks for made it.